A choice, at the moment it is made, needs nothing more. It is already complete, closed, whole in itself, like a door that locks itself as soon as you cross the threshold. But there is an almost invisible gesture, so small that it is rarely perceived as a gesture, capable of reopening that door without anyone noticing. It only requires the gaze to shift away from the inside and slowly turn outward, searching for something that serves as confirmation. What if no demonstration was, in fact, overdue? What if the delay wasn't something reality imposes, but something that is created precisely in that lapse of attention, as subtle as a missed breath? Every time the eyes turn to the visible world in search of a sign that it has already happened, you decide if something is true, then check it. You decide if something is true, then wait. You decides whether something is true, then it asks reality for proof that the decision was correct. What if reality had never had that function? What if it had never been called upon to grant permission for anything? What is decided, complete, right there, at the exact moment of the decision, before any confirmation from the outside. So the question that really matters isn't, when will this appear? The question is, why, after deciding, do we still insist on checking? Because there is a huge difference between deciding who you are and repeatedly asking yourself if that decision is true. The first is creation. The second is a plea disguised as faith. Imagine a door that has already been walked through. On the other side of it, the old corridor no longer exists. There is a new space with a different light, a different atmosphere, a different temperature. But there are those who cross that threshold and, instead of inhabiting the new space, turn around, still peering through the crack, trying to see if the old corridor confirms that the crossing actually took place. This is the scene that silently repeats itself in the mind of someone who desires a new identity, but hasn't yet managed to stop asking about it. The body is on this side, the attention still on the other side, and what the attention dwells upon, that is what becomes real. There is an almost invisible assumption behind this search for evidence, and it is rarely examined. The assumption is that external reality has authority over internal identity, as if the world were a judge and the person a witness awaiting the verdict. But the world has never been a judge. It has never had that function. The world is more like a water surface, which simply reflects back in waves what has been thrown into it. A stone falls, and after that, the circles spread. No one asks the water if it agrees with the stone. The water simply responds to what it has received. Confusing the answer with the origin is the oldest mistake of a mind that has not yet realized its own power. Now think of a mirror. No one in their right mind stands before a mirror, asking if the reflection will give them permission to smile. The person smiles, and the mirror simply returns the smile, without opinion, without delay, without judgment, and yet, that is exactly what happens with reality when one waits for it to give a signal before allowing oneself to feel that the new identity is already true. Asking the mirror to smile first is reversing the order of things. It's expecting the effect to produce the cause. This inversion, subtle as it is, consumes years of entire lives. Not because reality is slow, but because the person continues, without realizing it, pointing to the mirror as if it were the source. There's something even more uncomfortable hidden within this search for confirmation, and it's worth confronting head-on. Every time one seeks external proof, one is not merely doubting reality, one is reaffirming, with great precision, the identity of someone who does not yet have one. Each check is a small ceremony of reinforcement, a small renewed vote in favor of absence. It is not reality that is delayed, it is the identity of waiting that repeats itself each time the eyes turn outward in search of evidence. And here's the paradox that few can understand for very long, that seeking proof that one is something is, at the same time, the most efficient proof that one is not yet. Now, a question that perhaps has never been asked in the right way. What exactly could serve as evidence? A visible result, a message, a favorable coincidence, someone's opinion, a number in an account, a face that changes expression. But notice, each of these signs only means something because a mind first decided that it would mean something. The same event can be interpreted by two different people as confirmation and as failure, depending entirely on the identity each person already held before looking at it. This reveals something enormous. There is no such thing as neutral evidence. Evidence arises after belief, never before it. Therefore, waiting for external proof is waiting for something that can only exist after the internal proof. The decision has already been made. The person is proof. Not because it's a pretty phrase, but because, structurally, there is no other possible source. There is an image that helps make this more concrete. That of a river. A river doesn't ask its banks for permission to follow its course. The banks merely shape the visible form of what is already moving with its own force from within. The decision works in the same way. It doesn't originate from the margins, the environment, or the circumstances. It is the original movement, and the margins only draw the visible outline of that movement afterward. To confuse the riverbank with the river's source is the same mistake as confusing the environment with the origin of identity, and the time comes to examine the word manifestation, which often carries a weight that does not belong to it. Popular culture has taught that manifesting is a process, something that is done. Steps, techniques, rituals, internal corrections, emotional purifications, sequences. But looking more closely, one notices something different. Manifesting is not a process, it's a selection. Imagine a house with countless windows, each offering a different view of the same landscape. None of these windows need to be built. They all already exist, side by side, simultaneously. The only thing required is to cross the room and choose which window you want to look out of. Rituals, techniques, practices, all of these can help one navigate the room with more confidence, but none of them creates the landscape. The landscape was already there. The real creative act is simply choosing which window to dwell in attentively. This means that change is not a journey. Culture loves the metaphor of the journey, of the long road, of crossing a desert to an oasis, of the before and after, separated by a distance that needs to be covered with effort and time. But this metaphor, however beautiful it may sound, hides a trap. She suggests that there is a real distance between the old and the new identity. And in suggesting distance, She also suggests wait, and in suggesting waiting, she recreates exactly the same verification mechanism that prevents change from taking hold. The identity shift doesn't happen at the end of a journey. It happens at the exact moment of acceptance. Everything that comes after that is not the path to the new version. It is merely its echo spreading across the surface of visible life. A watch can help you see this more clearly. The hands of a clock appear to move slowly in a slow and visible sequence, but the internal mechanism that truly determines time is not in the hands. It's in the hidden gears, which move all at once in an instantaneous click. The hands of a clock are merely the surface expression of something that has already been decided internally. Life works the same way. What you see from the outside, the new job, the unexpected encounter, the change of fortune, these are all just pointers. The real click, the one that truly sets everything in motion, happens beforehand in a place that no external eye can directly witness. Therefore, waiting to see the hands of the clock move before believing that the click has already occurred is, once again, reversing the natural order of things. And now, the most honest question of all: what to do when doubt arises, when emotional discomfort persists, when the days seem to repeat the old version of life, still without a sign of something new. The answer lies neither in insisting harder nor in forcing a positive emotion that isn't truly felt. Both attempts still operate within the logic of verification, only with more effort. The answer lies in changing the question you ask yourself internally. Instead of silently asking where the proof lies, one can turn inward and simply acknowledge that what is being experienced, even the discomfort, even the doubt, is merely part of the old landscape, still visible in the window next door, and not an answer as to which window was chosen. Confirming instead of verifying is what it's all about. It's not about repeating statements as if trying to convince oneself of something. It's simply about stopping asking questions and letting the decision already made remain quiet without needing approval from anything that still belongs to the previous landscape. There is a garden that perfectly illustrates this understanding. No one plants a seed and then digs it up every day to check if it's growing. That would interrupt the very process you want to see completed. The gardener plants, covers the soil, and then walks away, trusting in something he cannot see directly, but which he knows, by nature, is already in motion. Identity works like this. Once the decision is made, the next step is not to dig it up. It is to step away, knowing that what has been accepted internally does not need vigilance to become visible externally. And perhaps that is the true end point of this reflection. The realization that there was never anything from the outside that needed to validate what was already, silently, true within. The person was never expecting an answer from the world. The individual has always been the answer that the world, sooner or later, simply reflects.